album. What sparked the idea of recording a live album during your tour?
Um, well, that's a good question. It started with buying a piece of gear, actually. We bought a new desk for that we bring around. It's a sound, just upping the game a little bit. So we bought our own live sound desk, and then we just wanted to make sure that it could also record because another band we were on tour with was doing that. So then we just started recording the shows, and then the next idea was just, well, in the break, why don't we release a live record? Um, and just like the deeper reason is, all of us are classic rock fans, and our favorite albums from all of our favorite bands are the live records, you know.
Yeah.
So in other words, the short answer is the live record was a big influence on us, and it felt like the right time and the right opportunity to make our own chapter in that history of live records.
Yeah. How did you choose which shows to include on the album, given the mix of North American and European recordings?
It was just purely best performance. I mean, we obviously wanted to try to get big cities on there,
Hmm.
but in America, we got Los Angeles on there, you know, but I don't think we didn't get like a Chicago. I mean, we played Chicago, but I don't think, we didn't put Nashville on there, even though we played there. So it really was purely about the performance.
Was
So
there,
yeah, places like Waterloo and
yeah.
Bloomington, but just like, hey, uh, that's where it sounds the best. So I think the Europe side is a little bit more littered with the big ones:
Mhm.
Paris, London, Milan. So, but those just happened to be the performances we really liked. To be honest, it really was as best we could about the music.
Did any particular city or show stand out as a clear favorite?
You mean once we were listening back, or
Yeah.
my memory of the show?
Um, I think maybe memory of the shows. I mean, and
Well,
also listening back, I'm
I think for me, just the time that I had, um, London and Milan. Milan was number one. We played to a lot of people, and their energy was crazy. They were like leaning over the barricade and stuff. So to me, that was number one. I think we were very excited for London because it was the biggest one we played in London, and it it came like a weekend, so we had kind of like a run up of random UK cities where we could just get the kinks out, try to get
Mhm.
the what do you call it when what's this um when you go over to London, when you go over to UK, and you
Yeah.
can't sleep, you call that
It's a
'cause
different feel over there.
yeah, because the time difference, what do you call it, flight drag, I'm not up yet.
Jet
Anyway,
lag. Jet
jet
lag.
lag. Yes, thank you. Wow. We have another sip of this coffee. Yeah, like we had like a week to try to like get the jet lag right and like
Yeah.
work out the kinks. So London, we were very excited for, and that was a blast. And um, Paris actually was also really exciting because we were playing the Moulin Rouge, and that's a really cool area.
Yeah.
We didn't, the Moulin Rouge has a rock club and it has the theater, um, and we were in the rock club, and that was cool. That ended up being wild, but honestly, when I started that show, I wasn't sure if I could stand up anymore. Like I was so tired from this tour. Like I didn't have anything left. So my memory of that show is like a lot of it being like just get through it, and then somewhere in there it sparked up, and I ended up crowd surfing and stuff. You never know, man. You go in ready for a nap and you leave, you know, crowd surfing. So
Did you ever change your approach to a song based on how the crowd was responding in terms of energy?
Me personally, yeah. Sometimes I just abandon how the solo goes on the record because I'm just so fired up. So just play whatever I want. People don't, you know. I don't think we have a type of guitar audience that's coming to see me play the solos note for note. It's not that kind of like guitar world kind of thing. So, the virtuoso police, they don't really show up to my show. So it's more in the world of Jimmy Page slash kind of Keith, you know, at least in terms of of the approach to being loose with it.
Mhm. Have you ever left an imperfect moment on a track because it captured something real?
Yeah. Um, yeah, you could do an Easter hunt or whatever it is, an Easter egg or whatever you call it, like on all the records for sure. Um, yeah, definitely have. There's a bunch of them on the live record. uh, those are, what's a real bummer is my best versions of the solos on on the studio albums are usually on the demo, and those have a lot of those. We'll do a demo here, and my first creative take is like sick, and it has mistakes, but it's like we just did this one. It's kind of a shuffle, and I'm really bummed to try to have to redo that solo. I'm like pre-bummed. Um,
Well, it's raw energy.
it's so raw energy, and I'm only going for like the composition of it,
Yeah.
and I'm not worried about the perfection. And a lot of times, there's this thing at the end where I'm not sure how I'm going to end it, but I'm going. So
Yeah.
that that hurls you into the moment and
Hmm.
that kind of focus. You won't have it the second time if you're like, all right, now I'm going to do that solo again now that I've got it. But oh man, the first time I really experienced that was The Wire. We did The Wire a long time before we actually put it on a record,
Hmm.
and man, that demo solo. It's basically the solo on the record, but it's just got that extra. There's always like when you're in that mode, there's always like one phrase that is a mix of I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm panicking a little. And I finish it. And so rhythmically, it's something I couldn't think of, you know?
Yeah.
So then it's hard to recreate that. So
Yeah.
yeah, more so on the demo. I wish we could get the demos onto but the tempos sometimes aren't, it's just not.
Yeah. Well, rock and roll is best when it's raw. Do you think it's important for a live album to capture the band's personality without over polishing it?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, that's the only point in us doing it.
Hmm.
There's a lot of rock and roll records that came out in the heyday of live records that there's a lot of live rock and roll records that came out in the heyday that have since been proven to be kind of heavily doctored, which is a bummer. I also think doctoring then is different than doctoring now.
Hmm.
If you go in and doctoring now, you could go in and do phrase by phrase and turn it into a Pro Tools session.
Yeah.
Back then, doctoring still kind of meant like, hey, try to do a good take of your solo because you were drunk and you dropped the guitar on the live version. Do you know what I mean? So like, it still
Yeah.
actually kind of has an energy.
Yeah.
But I think those guys, I think those guys, some of them made up for it with later releases. Like Led Zeppelin, "How the West Was Won." I grew up worshiping um, the DVD of "The Song Remains the Same," but I think that record was more heavily doctored because it was such a big project that was going with a movie, and there was all this footage to pull from Three Nights.
Yeah.
But "How the West Was Won," there's no doctoring. You can just hear it. Like there's too many flubs,
Yeah.
but there's so much energy in it. And Jimmy was like, this is really the power of the band at its peak. So I think that's what we wanted to do. And back to your first question, once we had recorded a bunch of shows, I think we gave ourselves the confidence by listening back, being like, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, so we just knew we had to do a good job. I mean, near the end of the run, we actually didn't have a copy of Rolling Sevens that any of us approved of, strangely enough. So it was a couple shows where actually it was just one show. Um, we were just like, all right, everyone play good. So the one that's on the record, and it felt like we were kind of up against it. It was like we're running out of shows now, and
Yeah.
we've all disapproved of all of the Rolling Sevens, 50 of them. The caveat there is we're usually a little more tequilaed up by the time that song happens. It's a little harder to get a. You're just past the magic mistakes line and kind of
Yes.
in the.
Well, you just have to push it further in the play, or, push it up in the playlist.
Yeah. We should have. Yeah, we could have done it earlier one night just to get a good. That's true. That would have been a tactic. So what we did was like, all right, just play this one, play good, and we looked at each other was like, all right, we're not moving around. So I played that whole song standing there. I mean, I held my rock pose and I had backgrounds to sing, but you know, I really just I didn't do a lot of jumping around.
It didn't have the tequila flavor to it.
Yeah, we just mitigated. I realized even with tequila, it's really the mistakes are really just it's a domino effect. You have more tequila and then you start acting like a ham more. And then it's the moving around that makes the mistakes. It's really just like, just reacting to the music.
Yep, you have so much energy from it. It's hard to contain it.
Yeah. Reacting to the music physically then puts kind of a road bump in the execution.
So it feels like with the range of experiences from different cities and venues, it's like each performance kind of added its own flavor to the final record.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. There's also, especially on the Europe side, you can hear the tone of the band changes kind of from song to song because of the room difference is so vast over there.
Yeah.
You know, um,
It's
it
a much
really is.
bigger playground.
Yeah, and it's just so varied because you go into these places that are just so old and they're just oddly shaped. You
Yeah.
know, so it there's a much bigger difference in the sounds of those songs from song to song.
hmm also with I wanted to talk about the documentary. How did the idea for the series come about, and what parts of the tour planned from the start, or was it something that evolved as you captured footage along the way?
I don't think we had the docu series in mind, but um, Mark just was realized that one of his friends who used to do like NFL films and
Mhm.
Netflix stuff, and uh, he he was available and around, and he was like, "What do you guys think? We just you know get him out here for 2 weeks and just have him film us and do interviews." And in the beginning, he was right away like, "Why don't we focus on showing people what life's like for an independent rock band
hmm
in 2024?" Um, which I thought was mildly interesting personally. When I was like, "Yeah, we also just need to show our personalities too." Like that, it'll be interesting for people to see the things that happen, but I think people need to just also see us being us. I think that's so. I think we did a good job. There's, I think we did a good job of that. I've seen 3 out of the 4 that'll be coming out, and so um, I think that the series part came about kind of more near the end or middle of editing and stuff and planning. just that was just based on just kind of release strategy and making it having something that people could look forward to, even though they've already seen one. We were like, let's not put out like an hour doc. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, fans always love to see, to have a peek behind the scenes. Um,
What do
you
you
know,
love to see the most about a band that you don't know about?
well,
Like that
I'm
you're
a, I'm a photographer, so I like to capture, you know, the unposed moments, right before you go on,
right.
the little things that most people wouldn't think about, the rituals people have before
Yeah.
going on stage. And I love capturing those moments, not just, right there on the stage in your face. I like those behind the scenes moments too. And I think kind of everybody likes that. It makes them feel like they're in it, like they're involved.
Yes, that's cool. Yeah, I like that too.
And um I think that the episodic documentary on this will really resonate with them. People really, they like to kind of go further in the story.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, just meet the people in a way.
Yeah. Do you think any behind the scenes moments, can you think of any that fit or kind of perfectly capture the spirit of the tour? And might it be featured in the documentary?
The spirit of the tour.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Um, like a general,
Like who we are? Like I
you
mean,
know, you know,
yeah.
you,
Let
th-
me think.
you know how you guys have definitely you guys have grown as a band. Last time I talked to you guys, it was during COVID.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
you guys were on the road somehow,
21.
and
21.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think.
We did a tour of the red states. That's why.
So, yeah, that's interesting. It's something I actually was talking with your PR manager about is the difference in the fans that you guys have here in the US versus, Europe. I'm here in Detroit, Michigan, and I've photographed two of you guys' shows here, and it's a mixed crowd, but it's definitely more on the, red state side. And I'm sure
Yeah.
for your fans in Europe, it's a much different feeling over there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of got to be interesting for you guys to be going back and forth, as you call it, like going to the pond. You know, um, it,
Across the pond. Yeah.
it's a different energy.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like when I think of those shows that I mentioned from Europe, that's kind of what's exciting about them is that
Yeah.
you see teenagers, you see people 20s, 30s, more girls, and just people who are in a more experimental time in their life. I think with the red state leaning thing is like it's just like we're the first guys who are gonna like us are guitar dads,
Yeah.
like the older guys, and that's just the sound of the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's like
So it's
that's
just,
uh that's like the core. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
we really appeal to when they were young.
Yeah.
Because we're listening to the records they listen to. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I would say lots of dads were there for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Lots of
But in
dads.
America, it has moved. You know, it has. There have people that have come in that are younger.
Yeah.
It took a little while, but
I
it's
definitely think that the feeling in Europe is much more everyone together, everyone hanging out. That's something I noticed when I was living and working there was that, I would go into a place and there would be like people of all ages, men, women, everyone just kind of like hanging out together. And it was like I was like, "Oh, wow, this is nice. There's all different types of people here instead of just one type of people at each place."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel that definitely. It's much more of a mixed bag, and But the cool thing is across all that, everyone here, everyone there, is really loyal and passionate and
Yeah.
um, loves what we do. And you know, it's it's been a fun ride in that aspect.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you guys just have a real cohesive sound now. The live album, I've got to hear it, and you guys just it sounds, you guys just have this sound like, like I was saying earlier, like a brotherhood sound. You guys, you're upstate, you're up there, you're having fun, everyone's kind of enjoying themselves, but also, doing a great job. You guys just work really well together on stage, and I think that's something that brings, your the crowd to you guys. And you got, like you said, like when you walk off stage, you are exhausted because you guys give it your all. And that's not something that's as common, I feel, as we're getting older. I think people just, it's a lot of, like you said, pro tooling with things. And when you guys go out there, you really put it all out there till the end.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I I feel that especially acutely. So I appreciate that because I always make it a point to remember on the nights where I don't feel like doing it that people have already earned a good show just by buying the ticket and showing up.
Yeah.
It's something you have to remember because you know you can get into the mindset of, oh, this audience isn't giving me enough energy, this sucks, or like these people are lame, and it's like, well, they paid to come see some people who aren't lame. That's the whole point. You know what I mean? The point is, like, don't worry, we'll turn this place out. You know what I mean? That's what we're paid to. You're paying us to come here and turn the room out. You know what I mean? Turn it out. Blow the roof off of it. So like for us to lose the battle of of energy to fans who just um aren't sure how to wake up is like a fail at the job, in my opinion. You know, and sometimes it's cultural. You have to recognize that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, all right, these people, they're going to wait till the song's over, and then
Yeah.
you know, I like Netherlands,
Hmm.
very very mellow, polite crowd. you know, um,
So what's next for Dirty Honey? Do you think maybe a new studio release, perhaps?
I mean, of course, yeah. We don't have it recorded yet, but that's what we're doing in this off time is to try to get to completion as
Hmm.
without rushing it, but put out another one. I think it's imperative to us to do that. The guys are coming over in a little bit, so this is kind of the first day back, really. We're gonna dig into our Dropbox of noodles and try to make. So yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with your fans about anything else Dirty Honey coming up?
Well, look, we got the vinyl. We just signed a whole bunch of them yesterday. I forget the drop date, but be on the lookout. The vinyl's going to be available if you haven't pre-ordered it already. It looks great. It sounds great, and you know, keep an eye out. We're going to be announcing things all spring for the rest of the year. So there's
Okay.
definitely plenty coming.